Celebrating 10 years of trailblazing in ground support, Exceed marks a decade as your leading partner in ground support equipment leasing. At the forefront of both short-term and long-term leasing solutions, Exceed adapts to your unique operational needs. Whether you're ramping up for peak season or planning for long-term growth, we provide the right equipment to keep your operations running smoothly. This anniversary, we renew our dedication to empowering your ground operations with efficiency and innovation. With Exceed, you're equipped for success today and prepared for the challenges of tomorrow. Exceed, driving excellence on the ground year after year. Explore more at exceedgse.com.
This is Laura McGrath.
This is Jennifer Mattisey.
This is Sophie Skinner-Jones, and you are listening to the GSE podcast.
All right. Welcome to the GSE podcast. I'm Matt Weitzel, and I'm here with Jesse Long from Lektro. How's it going, Jesse?
Yeah, going real good.
Yeah, man. So you all just had some meetings here in the Orlando area. So I guess Oshkosh came down to have some meetings?
Yeah, so we're still in the early integration phase of the transition, right? And it was just a good opportunity for the Aerotech leadership to interact with Oshkosh leadership a little bit and really comparing cultures and a lot of similarities, of course. We're all continuing to learn, which is encouraging. I think we're all headed the same direction and really excited about what the future holds.
Yeah, Oshkosh is a huge organization, and we're here today, though, to talk about Lektro. So can you kind of give me a brief overview of how you got started in the industry?
Yeah, that's interesting, and I'll try not to make it too long, but I actually had zero business background, zero aviation background. It was actually a family friend, Eric Paulson, who previously owned Lektro. So I started working for Lektro when they were privately held. It was kind of family owned, small company, had grown out of the general aviation segment, continuing to serve the general aviation segment, but had expanded to the commercial aviation segment, right? And yeah, he just asked one day if when I finished college, I was interested in a job. So I started out doing domestic sales, and I've kind of progressed up and now serving in the Oshkosh organization as the global director of Lektro product and general aviation sales. So,
oh, okay. So Eric started the company when?
It was actually Eric's father, Wilt Paulson, who started the company in 1945.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right, that's crazy.
And Eric actually took a leave of absence when he was in university, 18, 19 years old. His father was starting to get a little bit older, and the company was struggling a little bit. His dad was really an inventor and not as much of a businessman. So he came up with a lot of great ideas, but not all of them extremely marketable or with high demand. And so Eric took that leave of absence from university, never went back, ended up running the company basically from the time he was about 19 years old, ended up purchasing it from his father so his father could retire in I think it was the mid to late 80s, and then really was focusing on the aircraft tow tractor. So Lektro had done a diversity of different types of equipment up until the tow tractor or the aircraft tow tractor was first built, the first one in 1967. Okay. And then that ended up being the focus of the company, with Eric at the helm as just being a product that really nobody else was doing. We were the first in that segment to do Towbarless and electric, but also something that really had high demand, had very, very high customer satisfaction ranking. So any analyst that looked at it said, you need to stop competing in the forklift market, which we had for a while, in the golf cart market, the materials handling type things, and really focus on this where you have high customer satisfaction and very minimal competition.
So you're friends with Eric, or Eric knows your family, or like how'd that work? Like, I guess, he asked you after college, but then how did you get to know him?
Yeah, so he was actually friends with my brother. It was actually through a church group connection. Okay. And then he met me. My brother was already, gainfully employed and all that.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, Luke's got a brother. Maybe I can get him." So he issued an invitation, and here we are.
Oh, man, that's crazy. So The one thing that I do remember from the GSE expos, or whatever they used to be called, was that Eric wouldn't he drive some huge RV?
Yeah, so we've taken a couple different marketing approaches, but one thing that Eric always focused on very strongly was customer relationships. And they were not just superficial relationships. I mean, he was very intentional about developing relationships with people. And so we would go to trade shows and he'd bring his bus and serve food and drinks out of them. And it was really a hospitality center where he could just hang out with his friends. I mean, they were his friends in the industry.
Yeah, that was like a staple of all the shows was him pulling up with that bus. And it was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So those were the good old days.
Well, yeah. And I think there's more to come.
Yeah. Oh, good. That's awesome. Well, good to hear.
Yeah.
So basically you start with them in the 2000s?
I was first hired in 2005.
Okay. And then what did the product line look like at that point?
Yeah, so we had our 89 series tractors already at that time, but they were in their fairly early ages of infancy. We were still pursuing Boeing and Airbus approvals. We had focused pretty strongly with our smaller tractors for the commercial airlines and hadn't really moved up to the 737, 757, and Airbus, the 318 to 321 families of aircraft. So when I came on, and really starting in 2011, 2012, my mission was to take as much off of Eric's shoulders as I could from essentially business or general aviation business or activity, and allow him to focus on those additional OEM approvals or the NTOs from Boeing and Airbus, and then marketing this new big narrow body tractor to our airline customers. And that was what he just jumped into then from that time going forward, and really getting demo units out to, the major customers here domestically, winning their trust and starting to sell. And that's when the business really started growing, 2015 and beyond.
Okay. So you started out in general aviation. Like that's where the product really kind of got its foothold.
Exactly. Yeah. So in 1967, when the first Lektro was built, it was for an FBO operator in the Portland area.
Okay.
Who basically said, why do we put this bar in between the tow tractor and the aircraft? It just introduces an extra pivot point. It doesn't use the weight of the aircraft to your advantage. You're basically competing against it with the weight of your tow tractor. And especially as you handle larger aircraft, you have to have a larger and larger, heavier and heavier tow tractor to compete against that weight and inertia, right? So they were saying, eliminate the pivot point, use the aircraft weight to your advantage, and just simplify the whole process. And it's really interesting, the history of Lektro and Eric's dad being such a creative, kind of ahead of his time. I mean, you even look at that Lektro logo, which has been in use now for decades and decades and decades. I think it's still an awesome logo.
It is, yes.
And yet it's timeless almost. I mean, from when it first started being used to today. And that was really how Wilt and his ideas were. I mean, being the first one to build an electric golf cart. Back in those days, when he built an electric golf cart, a lot of courses wouldn't even let you drive something on their golf course. They wanted everybody walking. It was the good old days. That's how you play golf.
Yeah.
And why would you drive a cart on my course? And now you'll be hard pressed to find a course that lets you walk.
Yeah.
Right.
So
he's really been ahead of his time in a lot of ways, just driving these different changes. When he introduced this Towbarless tractor now, after it was developed with that FBO operator in the Portland area, now he's taking these units around to other FBOs and they're saying, it's typical aviation industry mentality. We've never done it that way. This is kind of new. We're not really sure. And he would just drop off a unit and say, well, use it for a couple weeks or a month and I'll come back and pick it up. And when he comes back to pick it up, they're pulling out their checkbook saying, what do I got to pay to keep this thing? Because just the efficiency of an electric solution, of a Towbarless solution, and it's so universal, you don't have the myriad of tow bars and all that. So
yeah, and then the turning radius, right, and being able to kind of stack a hanger, I think is like a huge thing for Lektro, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're just real strong both in and out of the hanger, and that's really what's unique.
Yeah, yeah. So then, how did you get into the commercial airlines? Was it through those shows, through those big expo shows that you all were able to kind of break in, and they were actually coming to you?
Yeah, so I should know that history a little bit better. My understanding is that the airlines actually started coming, some of the regional carriers, to the general aviation shows and saying how, because some of the airframes, if you look at the CRJ series or the ERJs, they have general aviation configurations, right, to be business jets.
Yeah.
And then they also have their commercial configurations. So these regional carriers were coming to the shows saying, how are the business aviation operators handling these aircraft? Is there a better, more efficient way? And that's when they saw our product. So initially, we were selling a lot of the 87s and 88s. to these regional carriers for their ERJs and CRJs. And then from that point, it was basically them asking, can we expand the range now to handle as the RJ's size increase? Can we accommodate it? And then also, with the narrow body single aisle Boeing and Airbus fleet. So yeah, it was interesting. It's just one of those things as customers use a quality product and recognize it and see the value that it brings to their business, demand kind of naturally follows.
Yeah, for sure. Can you kind of run through the series with me? Like, as far as is it started at 86?
No, so we've in more recent years kind of brought back even a smaller model, which is the Lektro 83.
Oh, wow.
And that's for your trainer aircraft, the real small. It'll handle up to a King Air in the business aviation side, handle your small Lears and Citations. Then the Lektro 86, as what a lot of people are most familiar with, was a big seller. It seems to be kind of tapering down a little bit more, leveling out as business jets just get bigger. People are wanting to buy a tractor that maybe not only handles what they're flying today, but what they're going to fly 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So the 86 will basically handle up to the larger Citations, some of the Hawkers that I guess you don't see quite as much these days. The Lektro 87 model is where you start having crossover. It's applicable both in the general aviation segment as well as the commercial aviation segment, where you can handle your CRJs and ERJs. On the general aviation side, it's the smaller Gulfstreams and Falcon jets by Dassault. The Lektro 88 series is really a bread and butter for us for the last decade, really, just because it's still low profile enough to fit underneath the low nose landing gear doors of your small business jets, your Lears and Citations. You can handle King Airs. I mean, even some of the small Cessna trainer aircraft, all the way up through the Embraer 170 to 195.
Okay, so if you have the 88, you can pretty much handle anything that might come in.
Especially as an FBO operator.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the general aviation, we still have a lot of customers buying that for their stations that don't need to handle anything larger than an Embraer 195.
Okay.
As soon as you move into the airliner like Boeing and Airbus, you really need to move to the 89. But that's what's so unique about the Lektro product line, where basically the larger you get, and this isn't always true, but by and large, the larger tractor can handle not only its full capacity, but almost everything smaller. And that's what made the introduction of the Lektro 89 into the market so revolutionary. Is it was really the first tractor of its kind that was fully approved by the aircraft manufacturers to handle everything from a Boeing 757 all the way down through the 73s, the A320s, the Embraer 170 to 195s, the CRJs, even the ERJ 135 and 145. And nobody had something like that. So you have customers now who essentially will have a narrow body terminal, right? And they can just go from gate to gate. And it doesn't matter if it's an ERJ 135, you pull up, push it back. If it's a 757, pull up, push it back. And you're not searching for tow bars. You're not trying to figure out what tractor I need to use or anything like that. And there's no new training, because obviously with different size tractors, sometimes even that takes different level of training. So you have basically the Swiss Army knife of the regional market.
Man, that's crazy. So talk to me about, I guess you also, have you switched from lead acid to lithium? Has that taken place, or are you all still sticking with lead acid?
Yeah, so we offer lithium batteries both in our 88 and our 89 series tractors. The majority of the tractors we sell today still are lead acid at the choice of our customers.
Okay.
And part of that is because we pick up the nose of the aircraft. Mm-hmm. And so we need a lot of weight in our tractor.
That's what I was thinking.
So the lead acid battery is really a cost-effective way to not only have a very stable, very reliable, long life power solution, but it gives you the weight you need to counterbalance the weight of the nose weight of the aircraft.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. But they could get potentially a lithium?
Oh, absolutely. We sell a ton of tractors every year to major customers with lithium batteries. And the only thing is lithium, of course, is a little bit more expensive. Mm-hmm. And you have to add some more steel ballast to make up for the weight that you lost moving away from lead acid. But it's a matter of a little bit of cost and maybe different infrastructure. But the advantages to the customer, of course, is reduced maintenance. Yeah, a lot of people just see it as a performance, maybe a move further into the future. I don't know if I should say it, but I'm still a big fan of lead acid batteries for our particular application.
Okay.
Just because I feel like they are a safe, reliable, stable source of energy that, again, kill two birds with one stone. You have the power and you have the weight. And also from an environmental standpoint, even, and I don't know if this is in vogue to say, but lead acid batteries are way more recyclable. Even the development of the mining of the minerals that are required are not nearly as
intrusive
controversial
maybe as
lithium.
lithium. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And nothing against lithium. I mean, where those customers have a business case for it and want it, we are able and are providing lithium batteries for sure.
So how long, let's say that I'm a commercial carrier, how many pushes can I do with the 8900 throughout a day without recharging?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I always sort of issue a little bit of a disclaimer. There's really a lot of different factors that impact how long your battery is going to last, right? I mean, it's not only ambient temperature, but how heavy is the aircraft you're pushing? How far do you want to push it? Is there any slope on your ramp? Those are all factors that are going to affect
for sure
how much drive time you have on a single charge. But I will tell you, when we first started delivering to commercial customers, well, I'll tell you two stories. One is we had a customer that was sort of interested in our product, but they were a little bit skeptical about battery technology. And they said, our hour meter on our combustion pushback tractors turn 14 hours in a 24-hour period. How long are your batteries going to last? And we said, you'll get 4 to 5 hours of drive time out of a single charge. And they said, yeah, see, that doesn't work when our hour meters turn in 14 hours. And we said, wait a second, your hour meter's turning basically any time the combustion engine is running, but that has no correlation to the amount of time where you're actually driving, right? So again, just in typical Lektro fashion, we said, let us give you a machine, put it in your operation and see what happens.
Yeah, let it prove itself out.
Yeah. And what they found is that in that exact same operation, where a combustion engine is turning 14 hours in a 24-hour period, the hour meter on the Lektro 89 only turned 3 to 4 hours. And that just is an indication of how, because you think about the environmental friendliness of electricity in this sort of application. A lot of times that combustion engine tow tractor, the engine's running while the passengers are boarding, while you're waiting for the tower to give you clearance to push back or whatever. Whereas the actual time where the tires are actually turning is very limited. It's very limited. And so how much of the time are the tires actually turning? Well, it's the 3 to 4 hours that they found out. And they said, man, you're right. These batteries are more than capable. In fact, we started then delivering in quantity, in volumes, as customers started ordering. And there was one customer where we delivered maybe faster than they were expecting, and the airport infrastructure wasn't quite in place. And they said, well, we'll start using these things, and if the battery dies before the charging infrastructure is available, we'll just, pull a conventional tractor back in. And they started, and it took about a week for the chargers to be up and running by the airport authority, and they hadn't charged the tractor yet. So we're talking a week's worth of airline pushbacks at a major U.S. airport, and they didn't charge. Now, that's not what I would generally recommend.
Yeah,
just for the sake of battery. We tell people charge every couple of days, even if your batteries don't need it, just to avoid, you want to cycle your batteries. But I was encouraged. I think that's a huge anecdotal, sales pitch anyway, to say, look, these things have high endurance. And again, your usage is less than I think a lot of people perceive.
Mm-hmm. So with the push, everybody's trying to go electric. We all know that. It's a huge push. And so talk to me about, I guess, do you see the product just completely blowing up with this push to electrification? Or do you think people will still stick to what they know and go to the conventional pushback, just an electric conventional pushback?
Yeah, that's a good question. And we've seen customers kind of go both ways. A lot of it just depends on what their established, inventory or infrastructure is kind of built around. There are some and it can vary even within a single airline from one base to another. So it's not cost effective or really justifiable a lot of times to say, well, we're just going to throw away a bunch of equipment that we have, tow bars, conventional tractors, and all that. But we do see more and more airlines maybe saying, hey, let's make this a full electric base, or let's make this a full Towbarless base, because they're just trying to manage, and it makes perfect fiscal sense, right? Where you're just trying to manage training resources, you're trying to manage spare parts inventory. So I think there'll continue to be a mixture, and it'll keep our business hopefully from having too many ups and downs, where people are just kind of continuing to make that gradual transition. There are some places where maybe a tow bar conventional tractor sort of application is better. Okay.
So that was the next question I was going to ask you. So what case would it have to be where a conventional tractor makes more sense? An electric conventional tractor makes more sense than electro. Like, what would have to be the climate there? Not climate as far as, actual climate, but what would have to be? Is it footprint like that sometimes would stop a customer from switching to a conventional?
That's the biggest thing that I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, is really if you're needing to do long distance towing, it can be a challenge sometimes with an electric towbarless tractor, where generally you have either a lot of torque for your pushback operations or you have a lot of speed for your longer distance. And it can be an engineering challenge really to get both of those things in a single unit. So
for sure.
So sometimes what we've seen customers do is have a conventional tractor for the longer distance where they can just hook up and blaze, and they'll use a Lektro solution for their pushback operations.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I had a customer that it was this 8925 BD or something like that.
Okay.
Do you remember that whole situation?
It's a higher speed model.
It is a higher speed model.
Yeah.
And I don't think you all made a ton of these things. And so they wanted to put it into a colder weather climate, and they didn't think it would work. Now, I've heard that from many different sources that that's not an issue at all, but I wanted you to address, how does Lektro work in colder climates?
Yeah, so there's a couple things I think that people mainly have in mind. One is the temperature impact on the batteries, and the other is the traction implications, right? I would say that I think lead acid is probably a better solution than even lithium in a cold weather application, going back to my lead acid preference.
Yeah.
As far as general concerns, though, related to traction, I guess I would put it this way. Let's just say a commercial operator is needing to move a 737. The ballast that's required to safely operate that tractor in a low traction environment is significant. It goes up, right? Because, okay, now I'm not pushing on dry, flat asphalt anymore, and that all needs to be taken into account. But what we've seen over and over again is when you transfer all the nose weight of the aircraft, which in the case of a 737 or an A320 can be 20,000 pounds or more worth of weight, getting directly transferred over the drive axle of our tow vehicle. So now you have not only the weight of the vehicle, which is significant, but then you have those 20,000 plus pounds of weight added directly over your drive axle. Traction is basically a non-issue. I mean, we see time and time again our two-wheel drive tractors outperforming four-wheel drive conventional tractors just because it's an unfair advantage. We have all that nose weight being our friend, essentially, whereas it's the competition against a conventional tractor. And obviously, here at Oshkosh Aerotech, we sell both conventional tractors and we sell Towbarless tractors. Yeah. And like I said before, there's validity for both, just in different operations. And that's what we're proud of, is being able to address the uniqueness of a wide variety of different customer applications.
All right. Well, you just said wide, so I'm going to ask you the question. Are we going to see an Lektro wide body pushback?
Yeah, I hope so.
I mean, you brought up the subject.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm pretty proud. I tell people a lot of times, again, I didn't go to school for sales. I didn't go to school for business or even for aviation, but I enjoy my job. I love this industry, and I love the Lektro product line. Okay. So nothing would make me happier than to see us continue to be able to expand and make the product line even more successful. That being said, I do have a little caution, I guess, about trying to do everything and then end up not doing anything well. And I think that's been one strong trademark of the Lektro product line up until today, where, okay, when we do things, we do it right and we do it well. And there's, even from a business standpoint, the vast majority in terms of quantities of aircraft being sold today, the vast majority are narrow body aircraft. And so we serve that segment all the way from the narrow body airliners down through the trainer aircraft in the general aviation segment. So I think we're well positioned right now. And you have to kind of ask, okay, are we going to start playing in a sandbox that maybe just isn't our area of expertise? If we do a wide body, we'll make sure it's good. And I certainly hope that day comes. I just don't know when it'll be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then I would like you to kind of go over what the difference between a towbarless tractor from maybe another provider, how it differs from what you provide, because I think there's a definite difference, especially in the cradling process. And can you just kind of explain that? And I think it's less maintenance with Lektro, I would imagine.
Yeah, so an emphasis on the Lektro product line from the very beginning has been to basically keep the machine simple, easy to work on, easy to operate, highly reliable. And yeah, I don't think it's any secret. There have been, and there continue to be, more and more competitors sort of envious of, what we offer and sort of wanting to pursue that same, customer base, that same concept. And it seems like the competitive vehicles that come out just get to look more and more like what we have. They're just getting closer and closer to building what we offer. So I guess I feel like where we distinguish ourselves is being the original, first of all, where a photocopy is never quite as good. But beyond that, I think it's the culture of Lektro. It's the culture of, even when we were acquired by JBT Aerotech and now being folded up under the Oshkosh umbrella as Oshkosh Aerotech, the culture of all these organizations, and this is why I still work for this company, is because the culture is build quality and then support it unquestioningly, 100%. So that's, I couldn't sell. I don't think I'd be a salesperson if I didn't believe in the product that I'm selling, and essentially have a product that sells itself, where I can go to any trade show in the world and look customers in the face and with clear eyes tell them, we will take care of you if your machine ever goes down, even if it's not, you have component failures. Nobody sees the motor manufacturer when their motor goes down. It goes right to Lektro. It's Lektro, whatever. And but we stand behind it. We always have, and I'm pretty proud of that. So I think that's really a big distinguishing mark is buy whatever you want. But I think we have a more robust testing program. I think we hold ourselves to a higher standard in terms of vehicle performance. And I think we'd take better care of our customers.
Okay. That is not the way that I was thinking about going, but I'd love it. And I was wanting to talk about the cradling system.
Yeah.
So but I mean, listen, that was amazing. And then you're exactly right. And those are all the things that I've heard. And I'm around Oshkosh all the time. We're recording it at Oshkosh right now. So, but yeah, talk to me about the cradling system and how that differs.
Yeah, so our system is a little bit different in that most towbarless tractors, especially in the commercial airline segment, actually clamp onto the tires rather than just pulling the nose gear onto more of a shovel or a cradle or a scoop at the capture end of the vehicle. And that is a big differentiator just because of the simplicity in terms of maintenance. There's a lot fewer sensors. There's a lot fewer.
Well, there's just so many more things that could not go wrong.
Exactly. And that's what you see where you have all these clamping arms and brackets and mechanisms where one thing throws an error, even if it's a loose connection and it's not really an error, it will stop a competitive tractor and lead to delays for the customer. And in an airline application, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And it makes it so you kind of feel like you do have to have that conventional sitting around just in case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the reliability and the simplicity and the universality, if you talk in the general aviation segment now, having a cradle like ours where you can put a single nose wheel, a small Learjet or Citation on the exact same cradle where you put a Boeing 737, that's definitely unique.
That is unique. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for covering that with me. So, all right, I think it's time. So why don't you, and then we'll kind of dive into more Lektro stuff. But why don't you dive into a story that you have about the industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. The one story that comes to mind, and I don't know if this is where you wanted me to go necessarily, but
It can go anywhere,
okay.
just so you know.
Okay. I guess I'll go back to Lektro history maybe a little bit, just because this is really intriguing to me. Back in the 40s, 50s, whatever, on the north coast of Oregon, there was actually some mink industry. And this is just an example of kind of where Lektro came from, okay? So these mink farmers had come to Eric Paulson's father, Wilt, who owned and ran the company at the time, and said, you know, as they're trying to just increase profitability, they would build these stacked cages, and then they had come up with kind of a tractor that would drive down the rows of mink cages with conveyor belts to drop the feed into the troughs for these mink, so you can just do mass breeding, mass feeding, you know, all that stuff. And again, just maximize profitability. Well, what happened was the vehicle that they originally developed was a combustion engine tractor that would sort of tow this apparatus down the row and drop feed with conveyor belts into the mink cages. But the noise of this combustion engine driving through these barns and the feed houses or whatever just freaked the animals out so much that they were actually eating their young, which was counterproductive, right, to their whole business.
Yeah, I think so.
So that was when they came to Wilt and said, look, we need a nice, quiet electric solution to be able to drive. So he made a mink feeder, okay, which had this conveyor belt system, would drop feed into these cages as it drove down these rows nice and quiet. Super innovative, you know, met the customer's needs and all that. But then you have to ask, okay, when you look at it now from a business perspective, how many mink farms are there
right
in the world, not just in the state of Oregon, you know? And so, okay, we have this great product, not much to do with it. Well, when Wilt was approached then in 1966, 67 for an aircraft tow tractor, they took the mink feeder and they just turned it around, put a shovel on the front of it, and that was the first airporter that they ever built in 1967. So I love that story just because I think of the innovation of sort of the unconventional roots of all this stuff and really what it's led to today, not only in terms of the amazing footprint that the Lektro product line has around the world, but that now there's even companies trying to copycat or mimic what we do. And I think that's pretty remarkable.
That is a great story. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to go in the mink direction before you started the story, but it did. So talk to me about then, I guess, JBT and then Oshkosh and you know, you all being acquired by JBT and then eventually Oshkosh acquiring JBT and how that's kind of changed Lektro for the good, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and obviously, I mean, you go through acquisitions like that, and I think it's natural to have some apprehensions, not really know where are things going, but it really couldn't be better on both fronts, in my humble opinion. I mean, as a personal friend of Eric's, actually, I was with him all last week in Palm Springs, just on vacation, and so we still keep in touch, but I guess what makes me so happy is to see him be so successful and allow him now to have a break after literal like 5 decades. He was running this company 7 days a week. And now I guess I just consider it my maybe responsibility to maintain that legacy of customer first and building quality equipment and really just growing the business. So that's what was encouraging to me when we were then acquired by JBT. You know, you have these different apprehensions, but then you see that really their culture of taking care of the customer, of doing the right thing, you know, having integrity, building quality equipment, all of those things just on a larger scale.
Yeah.
Right. So then, you know, you fast that acquisition happened in 2019. Allowed Eric to retire. So those of us that he left behind, you know, were kind of increasing our responsibility, trying to keep this thing going. It was so providential, though. I talk about the benefits of just the culture or the synergy of cultures, you know, that were melded at that point. But really, it was providential in terms of timing, too, with COVID happening. And it would have been a nightmare as a privately held company to navigate COVID.
Oh,
right?
For sure.
So the sale happened in 2019. Eric stayed on board for a year, and his last day was March 30th of 2020, which is almost a date that will live in infamy for all of us, right?
Just because
that was when things really started shutting down. Major impact due to COVID. But to have a corporation, a major corporation behind us to allow us to sort of navigate that, to know where we had to make cuts or where just financially be able to navigate those rough waters was providential. But I think I can say now, maybe with JBT primarily being a food processing equipment company, the match maybe wasn't perfect. It was in terms of us being a part of Aerotech, but
yeah, for sure.
Now Aerotech, just needed a company behind them that was interested in additional growth and development. And so now the entire Aerotech group having been acquired by Oshkosh Corporation, in all honesty, I could not be more excited. I just think it will continue to grow and refine not only who we are, but the products that we offer. And it's remarkable. I mean, when you sit in some of these transition meetings, the things that Aerotech as a group are looking to expand into or, to improve, things like automation, things like telematics, things like alternative fuels. Those are all the same things that now our parent company are also interested in. Oshkosh, every product line they have is a highly engineered, purpose-built piece of equipment for a tough job in
That's Lektro.
in a variety of industries. Yeah, and it's what Aerotech does. It's what Lektro does, and I just think the fit is remarkable. We already are seeing the benefits of the synergies, and it's only going to increase as we get more integrated with Oshkosh as Oshkosh Aerotech. So I'm excited.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah.
It seems like a spectacular company that you all now get to be a part of and reap all the benefits. So what haven't we covered?
Yeah, well, I guess I think we've talked a lot about Lektro. I'll say thanks for having me. I've been honored by every chance I've had to work with Exceed. You guys have leased some of our equipment out, even specific to the Lektro product line.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited to see how we can grow. I mean, I guess maybe I should be asking you, how do you think we can help Exceed's business expand? What's your visions for the future? And I guess I just appreciate the partnership that we have and look forward to seeing.
First, let me say that I'm a big fan of Lektro. I believe that there is going to be a lot of growth in this sector, especially with the conversion to electric. I feel like people are going to almost start moving away from the conventional electric pushback and kind of going into the Lektro product line. And I think that's going to be really interesting for you all. I think we want to be a part of that. Exceed has really invested in electric because we see what's going on in the industry. So we're already starting to buy electric C15s. We're buying the electric B80 from Oshkosh now, and we need to start buying some Lektros and getting those out into the world. And it'd be a great product for people to try if they haven't tried it yet. So then we can, offer them rentals and leases on that to see how it works. And then those people that are worried about the weather conditions and all these different things that we talked about, proving it, firsthand that obviously it can do it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And kind of getting that product out there, because it also is a heck of a lot less maintenance because there's just so many less moving parts.
Exactly right.
With Lektro than there would be in a conventional pushback. So I think that you all have a lot of advantages right now. And then, with the power of Oshkosh behind you as well, and the level of service, and I'm sure parts are easier to get. And I mean, everything's got to be better now that you're owned by such a large entity that is focused on service. So anyway, again, believe in the product, and I think it's great. And yeah, we do have some out in the field. We just don't have enough, and we need to be ordering some. And speaking of which, what is your lead time now? Because I've heard some things, and I want to make sure, because it seems like you all are very busy.
Yeah, no, we have a very, very healthy backlog. I will say that, but we have been working for the last year plus really to not only increase capacity, but to put more pressure on our suppliers to increase and Oshkosh has helped with that. Where we were maybe a small fish, they use a lot of the same suppliers. And so to be able to turn up the heat on those people as now being part of Oshkosh has been a big help.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah, and we've seen our lead times cut in half in some cases now.
Because when Oshkosh comes knocking on the door, all of a sudden the lead times on parts get a little bit shorter.
Yeah, we get a little bit higher priority.
Yeah. I used to be in purchasing. I know a little bit about that. Yeah. You got to take care of your big customers.
No,
right?
so even our throughput, I mean, it's getting faster. Lead times are definitely coming down significantly. Lead times, depending on the specific model that a customer needs, is anywhere from 3 to 10 months. And we're really just trying to be smart about it, build some generic spec models here and there.
Some whitetails and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's really where, some of our customers or partners like Exceed come into play, when we can refer them to, okay, your tractor might not be ready for 8 months, but we know people who have some, and use this one until you get the next one. And I think it's real critical too, as we partner with companies like Exceed. We have a unit that's on its way to Louisville for the Derby right now.
Oh, okay.
There's all sorts of events like that, whether it's the Masters or the Derby or F1 or whatever else, where there's money to be made, I think. And the Super Bowl, I guess, would be another one. But in any case, I'm just excited. It's a fun industry. There's a lot of diversity, a lot of interesting opportunities. You get to meet great people, and there's really not anybody in the industry that doesn't seem to love the smell of avgas, and love jet fuel.
Yep.
So it's fun.
So are you going to be at the GHI Americas show in Toronto?
I'm not currently planning to be there. I will be in Lisbon for the GSE Expo. Okay.
Are you all going to bring product to the GSE Europe?
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll have a number of different products.
That's going to be a great show.
Including our new Lektro 88i, by the way. So,
okay, tell me about. Can we talk about the 88i?
Yeah, I guess that's the thing we haven't spent a lot of time talking about is new product development.
Look at that segue.
Yeah, I mentioned just our desire to build products that were simple and reliable. But what happens is that as technology moves forward, we want to take those advancements, and it's always the challenge of finding the balance. Do you keep yourself at the cutting edge of technology and then risk, having some issues here and there out in the field? Or do you kind of hold back a little bit and make sure that new technologies are really mature so that you're providing, when you do launch those new products, you're really providing a more reliable, mature type of technology and product. So I feel like we've struck a healthy balance in those regards, and JBT and now Oshkosh, I think, have the same approach. You can't afford to do a bunch of R&D with a scheduled airline at the gate, okay? Reliability is very, very important. So we're now at the point where we're saying, and it started when we were acquired by JBT, and now it's continuing full speed ahead with the refinement of our different product lines to say, where should we be integrating PLCs? Where can we transition from DC drive motors to more efficient AC drive motors, lithium batteries? What can we do in terms of integrating telematics and autonomy and things like that? So that's what is wrapped up in the L88 or the Lektro 88 model, and the Lektro 89. It's Lektro 88i is what we're referring to it as, and then the Lektro 89i. Basically maintaining the same aircraft capacity. So it's really a direct replacement for customers who have bought our older 8850s or 8950s. But just the enhancements in terms of technology and user-friendly, maintainer-friendly features is remarkable. We're really excited. So we're going to have an 88i at the GSE Expo in Lisbon later this year, and look to get the 89i through some testing and hopefully for a launch in 2025. So real exciting.
So will those come with IOPS?
Yeah. So they'll have telemetry basically as a standard feature.
So right now, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So right now, can you get IOPS on any Lektro that you get, or is that not quite there yet?
It's available to a limited extent, only because the amount of information that you can pull off of a relay technology type vehicle is real limited. Mm-hmm. So it's really something that's more being launched with the I models.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Gotcha. Yeah, well, that'll be a lot of fun for people that get to go to the show and be able to check out the 88i for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we're excited.
And then these units, can you get cabs on Lektros?
Yeah, so we've had some customers put their own cabs on, and cabs aren't real friendly for our stand-up models, just because of the dynamics. Okay. But yeah, all of our sit-down tractors, both the 88s as well as the 89s, have had cabs available for years and years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And more and more customers are buying them. Of course, as you get in cold weather climates, move over to Europe, they're more used to some of those situations. Of course, and I don't want to inappropriately keep kind of diverting to the general aviation segment, but with that being one of my major areas of responsibility, when you think of in-hangar maneuvering and tight operation areas, some people actually see the cab as a disadvantage, just because aircraft strike may be more likely and things like that.
Yeah.
And on some of the large business jets, the Global Express aircraft and Gulfstreams, when you disconnect the torque links, which you do when you're towing, that nose gear, and I don't know if people know, has literally 360-degree radial freedom. So we can capture that nose gear, spin our tractor all the way around, and basically push the aircraft into the hangar sitting below the fuselage, if you can picture that. And so in terms of really maximizing the space in a hangar, I mean, you just think about being able to push the nose of your aircraft with literally zero protrusion from the tow bar or the tow tractor in front of the aircraft. And you can push the nose of the aircraft right into the corner of the hangar. And we've had some customers say, man, I've already paid for my Lektro unit because I can fit one more aircraft in my hangar than I could before. And hangarage, especially in harsh climate environments, whether it be cold weather or hot weather, is gold for some of these operators. So
yeah, I had a small FBO basically say the exact same thing to me. They ended up leasing a Lektro from us for their small little, FBO, and they had the same thing where they were using some old Clark tractor just to get it into the hangar, but then they realized like how much they're wasting as far as space goes because, like to your point, Lektro can fit it on a dime.
Yeah. It's very maneuverable, and even being able to then get the tractor out, people can drive under the wings and whatever else, which again, just going down the road of the cabs, like you asked, I mean, people see that as maybe less than ideal for that sort of application, but we certainly offer it for the applications where people are doing exclusive, pushback or longer distance towing operations. So yeah, I appreciate the question.
Yeah. All right. What else do we have?
I think we covered it. I'm excited. I'm excited. Hopefully I'll probably see you in Lisbon, I suppose, huh?
We're trying to figure that out at the moment. So whether Exceed will be there, so we'll have to wait and see. I have not signed any paperwork yet, but okay. I hope to be there. And then we're going to be doing a podcast about the upcoming GHI conference in Toronto, and then we're going to also be doing one about the GSE Europe show, just kind of previews and stuff like that.
Well, and we will definitely have people at GHI. It just won't be me personally, probably. So you'll see Oshkosh Aerotech people there for sure.
Yeah, and we're going to have Josh Parkin from Oshkosh on stage. We're doing a live panel, the GHI Americas show about electrification in the industry. So I'm sure Lektro will be brought up during that discussion for sure.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. So, and then we're going to have some, just people talking about just infrastructure in general, as far as like at the airports. And then we're going to have somebody, talking about chargers, and we're going to try to cover the whole thing on stage. So we'll see.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. But I appreciate the time today. And I'm so glad that you could come on. I've wanted to talk to you for a really long time. I'm glad that you were able to come down to Orlando, so that way I didn't have to go the whole way to Warrenton.
No, happy to be here. But listen, you need to make a trip to Warrenton one of these days, and we'd look forward to hosting you.
I do. I want to come see the facility, and it would be a great time. So you'll have to take me out to some of your favorite local spots there.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the GSE Podcast. We hope you found it informative and engaging. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with your colleagues and peers in the ground support equipment community. Your support is invaluable to us. We'd appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate and review our podcast. Your feedback not only encourages us, but also helps expand our reach within the GSE community. Keep an eye out for more episodes as we continue to explore the dynamic world of ground operations, bringing you the latest trends, insights, and stories from the industry. Thank you for listening to the GSE Podcast. Until we meet again, stay grounded and keep pushing forward.